is a friend. Yeah, I know he's been a good friend of mine. Lately something's changed, it ain't hard to define. Jesse's got himself a girl and I wanna make her mine. And she's watching him with those eyes. And she's loving him with that body, I just know it. And he's holding her in his arms late at night. You know, the guitar playing. Jesse's girl. Where can I find a woman like that? Oh, yeah. All right. So, what better way to start? You know, I always start with a song because I want to make sure that everything is working okay on the video, make sure I got everything else shut down. Um, just a couple of little housekeeping things. Make sure you know what's going on. I am still working on getting that Ethernet connection. We're not there yet, but I do have a certain IT fellow that's working on it, and I kind of have a crush on him. He's pretty cool. His name's Steven. Maybe you've heard of him. And so we also are going to be working on a few lighting things. I got some good recommendations from one of my director friends, but I'm not quite there yet. So I do, have a day job, those kind of things. So those of you that have tuned in already, welcome. Thank you for coming out today. I have another Peanut Gallery guest repeat. So thank you, Evan, for being here. And
a
hope,
whole
yeah,
peanut gallery worth of people.
right. And so, and here, and I know that's kind of hard to hear him, but I do have my splitter. I just need to get one more cord, and then we'll be able to have two mics. Two mics.
Whoa!
I know, but what
It's
would
like we have
happen?
a budget.
What would happen if I got myself together in enough time to get all these things that I say I'm going to get done? The more I say them, the more I make sure that they get done. So, welcome to Julia Pop, everyone. If you can't tell, we are doing celebrity crushes as announced and as we chit chatted. Hi, Kat. Kat is waving hello. And then Inger says hello as well. So, thank you guys for tuning in. You'll get to see a lot of my fandoms. We'll talk about your fandoms as well. So, thank you guys so much for chipping in and telling me all about your celebrity crushes that you've had. As you can see, I am wearing one of my celebrity crushes. I have a Paul McCartney from his tour. Let's see, his 2010 tour. And then, of course, behind me, the collage that I created from actual posters that were on my wall circa 1981, 1982. So I was 11 or 12 at the time. And so, as you can tell, I had a massive crush on Rick Springfield. So while we're at it, let me just go ahead and, as I break
I'm
things,
moving over for the real star of the show.
so, of course, and of course, my favorite poster. Hang on, let me see if I can get it in there without too much glare. Of course, we have the lovely Rick, and it's not just Rick; it's Rick with his dog Ron, who is on the album cover. And so, big fan. That was actually my favorite poster. Pretty sure it came from 16 magazine, one of those. And we'll talk about all the magazines and everything too. So I definitely welcome you guys to chip in on the conversation. If you're coming in late, we'll just get started on those as well. Yes, Kat remembers the movie that Rick Springfield was in called Hard to Hold. It was a vehicle specifically to show how pretty Rick Springfield was. And so there was like a love story. I think there was a little bit of action to be had with it too. I feel like Tony Bennett was in there too. Yeah, yeah. So,
I've never seen it.
but
I
his
have a
hair.
question though, real
Okay,
quick.
go ahead.
What era was the beginning of your crush on Paul McCartney?
Okay, it started right around the same time. So when I
He was in Wings. What was?
So I was 11, yet again at 11 at the time. Because if you've noticed, what seems to happen with a lot of people, you hit puberty and suddenly you have crushes on all the boys, whether they're famous or not famous. And so it was probably 80, 81 was when that crush definitely happened. So Inger says, I still have a photo album with all the teen idol articles. Yes, and I actually have articles on Rick here. You can kind of see some of them back there. I'll try to do a little bit more of a close up on that one later today as well. So yeah, it's
So
amazing all the
it
things
would
that
have
we
been
cling to.
modern
It
pictures
was
of him at that time,
yes, and
81.
yes, and
So
that's
how
the
old was he then?
as he was 40. No, he wasn't 40 yet. Let's see.
Okay.
Hang on. He was in his
It's
30s
just a
at that point.
unique crush, I think. Oh.
Yeah, it kind of skips a
And we just
generation.
glossed
No,
right
it
over
no,
his
it's
beginning.
it skips a generation, doesn't
Yeah,
it? And so
yeah.
and that's the thing is you can get crushes on people from even longer ago. So
Hmm.
yes, Kat, you are correct that there was an album, a magazine called Bop, and so I do have that listed on my list of magazines. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Like I said, feel free to comment away on everything that you hear and you see. So oftentimes, yeah, Crystal remembers it too. Teen Bop. There was also Teen Beat, Tiger Beat. Yeah, I got a list. Just you wait.
Was that my
So
magazine?
which one did you have? You probably had FHN or Maxim or GQ. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, all those. But like our
Oh, yeah. Well, it's right there in that frame, isn't it? Weren't you in something? Or were you? No, wait. Were
Oh,
you like actually
we were in like
teeny bopper?
Tiger Beat, and Teen
No
Beat movies.
way. Oh my gosh. A special guest and it fits the theme.
I've shown
So
you this picture before. I know
No,
I
I've
have.
seen
Yeah.
plenty of those where you're doing your blue steel look.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally,
Yeah,
totally.
and
I mean,
I'm terrible at posing for pictures with my face. I don't know why. So, but
you
it,
are not.
well, thank you, thank you. Somehow I pull it off. I don't know how. So Linda says I'm finally on time and set an alarm. Thank you, Linda. I'm so glad you do that. So she's with us.
It's really good because we're already like 15 minutes behind schedule.
No, only about 5 minutes. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
So we're just getting through
We
introductions.
digress.
Yeah, well, you digress.
And
I
I'm
try to
sorry.
stay on track,
I'm
but
sorry.
but no, that's amazing. So now it makes sense to have him as our peanut gallery for today. So and then so hang on. Inger has a good sciency thing. She said that's because of higher blood flow to the emotional center. So you create focused bonds on your attractions. Yes, absolutely. And so as I did a little bit of research, I always do a bit of research. They call them the more professional name is calling them parasocial relationships. So it's not an actual legitimate
It's not
social
sexy.
relationship. You haven't. No, it doesn't sound nearly as sexy
At
as
all.
celebrity
No.
crushes. Yeah, and
Or
so
sweet or
part
anything
of what
else.
fantasy crushes do, and that's a perfect example. So I'm glad that you shared that piece of information, Inger. So yeah, Crystal says she has to set an alarm too, and that's perfectly fine. I try to send reminders as often as possible and invites, but sometimes it's not enough. And so thank you guys for going the extra mile to make sure that you got in for today. So another thing about celebrity crushes, it's about fantasy, escape, identity, taste. And that's the other thing is as you start developing this part of you, Kat calls it perfectly. She says it's safe stalking. Yeah, it's so you are definitely following this person, but not to a point where it becomes obsessive, dangerous, those kind of things. There's a
And
line.
it's been peer reviewed. There's
Right,
all
but
other
it gets
people that are doing it
but
with you.
let's be honest, those lines do get blurred from time to time. So, but a healthy, a healthy kind of thing, it helps you feel a connection. It helps you feel
Especially in the
emotional
80s, they
support.
got blurred a lot.
Oh, big time. And the thing is different decades had different fandoms, and so yeah, I think so. And like I said, the next thing I have listed here is that there were potential risks such as stalking. So sometimes people go overboard with it. So there's that healthy level of it, but we want to try and keep things, like I said, with all of my shows, I try to keep them light. So one of the things that really increased the access was the advent of the internet. And so then you had even more access and a lot more people wanting to take pictures, paparazzi, all that kind of stuff. And it was very tricky for people that ended up being thought of as crushes or as pop idols or rock idols, whatever it is. They had to be very careful with the boundaries. And so those are very important things. Now, we're not just going to talk about
Let's get back to the stalking, though. Come on.
so the other kind of there is another kind of crush. People call it a boy crush or a girl crush. It's when you are aspiring to be that person. Like for me, Joan Jett. Like I don't want to date her, but I want to be like her. Did you have an aspirational? Who was your boy crush?
Yeah,
that
we went
you?
over this, but I had I have like a list of like
Well, and I'm guessing
Brad
that Eddie.
Pitt,
I think Eddie Vedder is one of them.
Eddie
Is Eddie
Vedder,
Vedder one of
sure,
them?
sure,
Okay,
but
all right.
more acting, I think, on that side. But like
Oh,
Brad
okay.
Pitt,
So Brad Pitt, yeah, he's a pretty
Leonardo
boy.
DiCaprio,
Mm-hmm.
and Giovanni Ribisi,
Okay, gotcha. So you
and
have some that you kind of
Sam Rockwell, and it's
see,
more like I'll just like watch every expression and just like I want to just
learn that somehow.
I want to be in be them for a bit.
Gotcha. So those are considered.
Wear their skin.
Yeah. So those are considered aspirational crushes, and that's the other thing is some people figure out their sexuality by what celebrities they're attracted to, not just a type, brown hair, blue eyes, whatever it is, but it's also what they aspire to. And so sometimes people figure out their sexuality based on those crushes that they have. And so Kat mentions Demi Moore and Leah Thompson are her girl crushes. So awesome. I love those. And Pat Benatar, of course, you're noticing a pattern. I tend towards more of the rock stars than I do movie stars, but I do have movie star crushes. It's very true. And then Kat said the Brat Pack girls. So yes, I have a whole list of them, and we are getting into those as well. So with all the fun that we have with the crushes, there are some problematic things when these crushes, for very many years, when these crushes were presented to the public, they were very hetero and available. which is kind of a bummer. But the thing is like if whoever you're attracted to, be attracted to them. Buy that magazine and don't be afraid. And I feel like over the years that the fan magazines have always just tried very hard to make sure that we don't want to talk about their girlfriends or their boyfriends. We don't want to talk about their spouses. We want to make sure everybody thinks they're available. And now I hope that's kind of gone away a little bit, so that everybody can be themselves. So Stephen, welcome. It's great to see you as well. So mine was being the king of any medieval times castle. Nice. And they're celebrities in their own special way. Yes, absolutely. And sometimes the fandoms, we don't always realize that it's not that they're famous to everyone. Maybe they're famous to us. And so there are a number of people that have a certain regional fame or local fame or whatever you want to call it that also get crushes on them as well. So that's something that I hope has kind of changed over time. We also mentioned that there are unhealthy obsessions and they have to establish boundaries. Sometimes this also leads to people ignoring their in real life relationships, and that can be damaging as well. So it's something that you've got to be careful about. Don't overdo it. Don't let it go too far. And then another right, exactly, it could be a little scary.
Yep.
And then also at the time there was quite a bit of whitewashing. Unfortunately, a lot of like the Motown artists got overlooked by some of the fan magazines quite a bit. If they looked different, if they looked other, somehow people would try to kind of homogenize everything just a little too much and kind of put them through the machine, so to speak. And I'd like to think that maybe we've gotten out of that a little bit so that people can be themselves, and the people being themselves can be found attractive by the people that become their fans. So, and then another part of that was very tricky to get through was the age too high and the age too low. And you brought that up with me having a crush on Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney is my parents' age.
Probably.
Okay? My parents were born in 41 and 43. He was born in 42.
Mm.
So it definitely gave me an idea of the kind of person I wanted to be with, but I didn't specifically want to be with him. I knew and recognized, oh, yes, he's far too old for me, but I love the way he looks. I love the way he sings. I like his personality, but I'm not going to date the guy. So that's kind of where those lines, you don't want those lines to get muddy. And sometimes people will get crushes on people younger than them as well. So it's like an entire generation younger, and you're like, this person is young enough to be my kid. This feels weird.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
maybe
sometimes
not,
it could be, sometimes there is a little
as long
discomfort
as
that.
it's not, there's no legality stuff.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the thing is it's a very slippery slope, tricky thing. So we want to
Because
make
they're
sure that we keep it
sexualizing everything.
exactly. And so we want to keep it more surface. We want to keep it more pleasant. And that's the thing, is that a lot of what we're seeing is what we would like to see. Some portion of it that we would like to see in our mates is kind of what is happening with the crushes we develop, helps us understand who we're then really attracted to in real life. So,
That makes sense.
so let's jump ahead to the magazines. We've already talked about a few of them. One of the earliest magazines, get this, was a magazine for movie stars called Photoplay. It started in 1911. And the silent film stars, the theater stars, before there even were talkies or anything else. And this magazine went from 1911 to 1980, based out of Chicago. You'd think it would have been based out of LA. There was one based out of LA called Confidential, LA Confidential. And it was from 1952 to 1978. And it was a gossip mag, but they would also have the pretty pictures of the beautiful women and the handsome boys. Then we move forward into 16 magazine, was one of the big ones that I definitely I didn't subscribe to it, but I would get it at the newsstand quite often. And it went as far back as 1957. So, of course, I'm sure they were covering like Elvis, and they eventually covered the Beatles and that kind of thing. And they went from 1957 to 2001. A weird thing about them, they didn't have any ads. The subscribers and the newsstand price was what paid for the magazine. So that was very unusual. And they worked really hard to try to keep it that way so that it didn't feel like the sponsors would get to say which handsome, good-looking people got to be on the magazine. And so, but Tiger Beat and Teen Beat did not have that problem. Tiger Beat came out in 1965. Teen Beat came out in 1967. They were just kind of pretty close to one and the same. I don't know why they turned it Tiger Beat, but Inger remembers 16.
Confused by that.
Right.
Tiger
Don't
Beat
were
to
they all
me.
the same? And a lot of times they'd have the same people on them, what to buy, which one do you get, and you would buy the one that had your favorites on it. So Tiger Beat went all the way to 2021. Teen Beat went to 2007. A lot of them just kind of got folded into a lot of other magazines. A lot of them went online. Bop was a magazine that we've already talked about, and that one went from 1983 to 2014. So these kind of had a shelf life, and magazines in general do too. They don't really put very many magazines out. So, but I do have some magazines that I will show you here in just a little bit. And then for men, or for those of you that were attracted to women, let me put it that way, Maxim, FHM, GQ, even Playboy. So they would oftentimes put a famous person on the cover, not necessarily in the centerfold, but sometimes that too. And they would usually be pretty scantily clad if they felt, so brave to show that off. And so a lot of people would buy those magazines. We sold the heck out of them at the record store. Now, the thing about most of the teen magazines, the phrase that I put in was tacky layouts, tackier headlines. One of the headlines on the one back here of Rick Springfield said, Rick really said it. It was a really big deal that he actually said it. And then one of the first ones they did when he first got started, Rick actually got started in 1972,
Really
right?
said it.
And Rick was like a minor star in 72 and didn't really hit big until he was 30, like when he hit. And I had a crush on him. He's 20 years difference. Back to that age awkwardness, right? But that was one of the ones that I saw. One of the first ones they did on him in 1972, it was, is Rick too tall? And he's only 6'1", and I'm like, huh? I don't even understand. So Inger says it was fun to compare.
What was the answer?
No, I think the answer. I hope the answer was no. Six
Was it
one's
a
a.
poll? I need to know.
No, it was not a poll. It was just one of those really fluffy, kind of dorky pieces.
Yeah.
And so Inger said it was fun to compare the star's favorite and see if they matched. And so they would always fill out like a form. It's like, what's his favorite color? And what's his favorite kind of car? And just all the different ridiculous things. And so it's funny because
I love it.
not long ago, there was a comedian at the Golden Globes who remembered Leonardo DiCaprio's one of his posts and that his favorite food was pasta, pasta, and more pasta. And somebody found a picture of it and posted it.
Like from when he was
These are the
teen
things.
bopper
These are
in
the
the
things
mag.
that stick in the back of our brains, right? And so Crystal remembered getting 17 magazines. So yes, so 17 was a cool combo because it had the cute guys, but it also had dating advice and fashion advice and quite a few different things. So Lewis said, my favorite show is Naked and Afraid Valentine. So, yeah, that's each their own. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, some of the earliest heartthrobs that we know about happened through media, and it happened through the silent movies. Now, here's a fun fact that I found out. There's one of the earliest movie stars. I hope I can say his name right. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Sesu Hayakawa. He was very popular in silent films. Now, you'll notice that he is actually an Asian man. And that's kind of shocking because, like I said, back then they had quite a bit of what they called whitewashing. If you were homogenized, if you were all American boy, all of that stuff. But he had an exotic good look, and that was what they called it at that point. And what's funny about that is as he aged, he kept doing movies. And so, do you guys remember the bad guy from the 1950s movie Bridge on the River Kwai? He was a heartthrob, not 30 years before that. So I didn't, personally, I didn't see it. But when I looked at the pictures of him and from the 1920s, my goodness, he was quite handsome, extremely handsome. And of course, the one everybody always knows is Rudolph Valentino. People still have crushes on him to this day, even though he's been gone a long time. When I went to Los Angeles, I am a weirdo that likes to visit graveyards. Yeah, we'll talk about that more around Halloween. And
Cool.
I love it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Kinda
It's
weird.
peaceful. It just, yeah, there's a lot of quiet storytelling happening there.
Is.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's a lot to be learned there. And so we did visit Rudolph Valentino's grave, and it had kiss prints on it. So people still admire him, even though he's been gone, at this point, close to 100 years that he's been gone. And yet, there he is. So at that time, the silent film stars, you had Mary Pickford, Lillian Gish, my personal favorite, which is part of why I wear my eyeliner the way I do, Theda Bara. And people said that her name was an anagram for Arab death. And I'm like, what? No, I don't want people to die, but I like it when it's dark. I know, for Kiss. And we'll talk about them as well. So So yeah, so these movie stars, and then as soon as the Soundies came along, and of course you had Greta Garbo, very dramatic, Louise Brooks, Clark Gable, Errol Flynn. So we had some of those swashbuckling fellows as well. Cary Grant. So even though, and that's the funny thing is, these are men that look quite grown up. They're not teen idols as much, but people flipped their lids over them and saved and clipped out pictures of all of them. And of course, as we move into the 50s, James Dean only did 3 movies, but he is so incredibly well known. He was pretty young, so he was kind of the beginning of moving into teen
That's my
movie
first boy
idols.
crush for sure.
I believe it. I believe it. He
Yeah.
had swagger, right?
Yeah.
And so then we move into
Drove
late
a lot of
50s.
cars.
So of course, the more we speak of more exotic, if they came from somewhere that wasn't America, people just got very excited. So Sophia Loren, and then of course we have some of the classics: Rita Hayworth, Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, who would sometimes have a boob pop out, and so they took it that far. And then you had kind of your little, scrubbed clean ones. You had Doris Day. You also had Ava Gardner, Montgomery Clift, Marlon Brando. I actually still have a 2 foot by 3 foot poster of Marlon Brando from The Wild Ones. And again, that fellow's probably old enough to be my granddad, and it's still so very handsome in those pictures. Tyrone,
Him in
oh
that
yeah,
white shirt, he just like
right.
looks
It
so
was very,
cool.
and it started that whole biker cool type thing. So Tyrone Power, Tony Curtis, and basically the what I close this up with was everyone that Madonna says in Vogue. Basically, all the people that she rattled off in Vogue, those were people that were, uh, those are the people that were uh, famous, that were popular, that were thought of as movie idols and also celebrity crushes.
In that
Mhm.
song, that
Yeah.
the names that she went through. Yeah.
Yes, and so I did run through a bunch of my magazines since we were just talking about magazines. Um, I have a ton of Rolling Stone. If I haven't told you this, I have Rolling Stone from approximately January of 1994 to about mid 2009. So what is that? 15? Like it's
Oh God,
a
I didn't know I was
dozen
doing
plus. Yeah, it's a dozen plus years, like 16 years worth of Rolling Stone. So what I didn't realize about Rolling Stone is how many people showed up and have their picture taken and are like in their underwear and practically nude. So I don't want to get taken off of Facebook. So I found some of the more demure ones. So here we are, of course, as I mentioned before, Nev Campbell. So we'll talk some about the different TV stars that also were here. And of course, we've got Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, and of course, they dressed her up in a really awesome, like I said,
Had a
these were
crush
the
on
more
her for sure.
these were the more demure ones. So yeah, and so Steven says my youth crush was Alyssa Milano, but my older self crush is J Lo. The wife's crush is 100% Keanu Reeves. I agree on Keanu; he is beautiful. So remember how you talked about Brad Pitt? Let's put Brad Pitt in a dress and put him on the cover.
Oh, I remember that. That was like Fight Club era.
It was, and
Yep.
you, as you could see by his shaved
And
head.
yeah, for
But
sure. Boy crush.
women
Like the whole
lapped,
world
women
boy
lapped it
crush
up.
on him.
My crush at that point was some Nine Inch Nails, a little bit of Trent Reznor. How beautiful is he in that picture, right? Don't you? I think he's very handsome in that picture. So but that's
Kinda
just
looks
me.
like Eminem.
And Rolling Stone didn't just cover rock and roll; they covered the boy bands. So they didn't go topless; they went pantsless. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
So
need to go close up
I
on
know
that
you
one.
poor thing, you poor thing. And then of course we've got NSYNC wearing their cute little glitter suits. So Dave said you have Rolling Stone magazines. You're cooler than I thought. Thanks. I was apparently a nerd until he found out I had a bunch of Rolling Stone.
And in good condition still.
They're in
That's,
pretty good condition.
yeah,
They really
you can
are.
still
So
read them.
you absolutely can. And so of course we have Orlando Bloom. Of course we talk about movie stars as well. And we have some rock stars. I did manage to grab Avril Lavigne as well. I thought that was a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
She's got her plaid.
I know
And of
some
course,
people that have crushes
there's
on her.
so much Britney in Rolling Stones, and a lot of them she's got quite a bit of skin showing. So
Yeah.
hang on, let me back it up. There you go. Let me get it all fixed. And
Free
so
Britney.
yeah, I think she's been freed. I
know,
believe
but
she has.
still,
So
just
those
the
are my
cause.
so those were my selected Rolling Stone. Of course, those of you who might have Men's Health, a little Jason Statham. So very, he's probably my favorite, one of my favorite action crushes. And it helps. It helps that he's got that like Essex accent of his.
Oh yeah.
Accents are sexy. They are. They really are. So. At least that's how I feel. So, and of course, musicians are sexy too. So, of course, there's John Mayer giving his best Blue Steel, of course. And then more musicians. On Songwriter Magazine, we have some Lenny Kravitz, very, very popular man. So now I, at the time, was a big fan of U2, and I think that this is when they were probably at their handsomest, if you ask me. I think so.
I just loved that band.
So,
I just loved them.
and yes, and you saw one of those posters that I posted. Now, let's take it back to 1984, 85 or so. I did have a Henry Winkler crush. And look at this. He's on Muppet Magazine. And Muppets will be another theme that we will cover. But there he is on Muppet Magazine. And let's see, who else was on Muppet Magazine? Oh, yeah, Miami Vice, little Don Johnson. So nothing goes together like, drug cartels and Miss Piggy.
I am so glad that I got to see Henry Winkler's. I'm sorry, off topic, but
Yeah.
that I got to see Henry Winkler as Fonz first.
Before
and then,
anything
like
else.
Waterboy,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Oh, yeah. And
my
he's a great
first
actor.
introduction was Waterboy, and then I saw him in
And
Fonz. I don't know if that would
but
work
you know
for
what?
me.
Of course, I saw him as the Fonz, and I still have a cool little Fonz cup. I'll try to
Oh, yeah.
remember to take a
Hey,
picture of that.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I have that, and we just have it out for show. I don't really use it to drink anything out of anymore. So let's skip ahead to music. I showed you some music once. So Dave says, "Is that why Steven talks with a Scottish accent?" I like his American accent just fine, but yes, when he gets the Scottish accent on, I kind of get a different kind of heart flutter. Yeah, absolutely. So, and
I'll get tingly.
oh my gosh, Steven says Henry is the nicest guy ever. Met him last year. I feel that. I hope that. I always hope that all the people that I have these crushes on are going to be just as kind as you say. So I'm very glad to hear that Henry Winkler is indeed a nice guy.
Oh,
that makes me
yeah.
very happy.
Oh my God, I
All
would
right,
love to
so
chat.
it's time for me to rattle off music crushes, okay? And so we take it back to the 1930s, and Bing Crosby was kind of the first big one. And again, like Cary Grant, he's like an entire grown up. He does not have boyish good looks. He looks like a whole entire grown up. But women went nuts for him because of his crooning voice. And Inger said, agreed, Stephen, he is very sweet. So that sounds like Inger was able to meet him too. Yeah, I love that. So then from Bing, of course, he passes the torch to a certain Frank Sinatra and the Bobby Soxers. So this was in the 1940s, and and let's be honest, he was a very handsome fellow. If you also haven't heard, I have a pretty massive vinyl collection. So I decided to get out some of my vinyls. So Frank is asking us to try a little tenderness, and that is a handsome fellow, if you ask me. Yes, Kat mentions Bing's eyes. He did have some very beautiful pale eyes. I think I see it now. So Dave said, better have that checked out by a cardiologist. Yes, at my age, I probably should have that checked out by a cardiologist. So of course, from an interesting thing, Frank Sinatra, the Bobby Soxers rioted in NYC back in October of 1944. So that hysteria was a pretty big deal. So Inger brings up Elvis Presley. Yep, perfectly timed because here's my album. And isn't that interesting that they gave him such a handsome look for inspirational songs? Like, we're going to church, but we're seeing this smoldering, good-looking face. I'm not sure how to feel about all that.
A sweater. So
Yes, he is. He is indeed not wearing a jumpsuit. He's wearing a sweater there. So, Crystal said, like Michael Bublé. Yes, absolutely. Michael Bublé himself, also a crooner.
But
so
Frank and all those guys, yeah, they like even seeing them at their youngest, they still seem like older,
right, and some of them,
dudes,
and that's the other
know?
thing. Some of them aged gracefully,
their
and some less
30s.
so much.
They
Yes.
seem like
So
they were in their 30s their entire life.
Right. They had a youthfulness about them, whatever that was. Inger mentions Gene Kelly. Yes, very handsome. So, and that's the other thing is some of them were not quite as tall in stature, but very handsome, and never stopped them from, the ladies just swooning all over them.
No, I get it.
So.
He was an older guy. They
Yeah.
were older
Yep.
people from the first time I knew them.
Oh, for sure. But still, like I said, still very handsome.
Oh, yeah.
So as we work our way into the 50s,
Old
of
handsome.
course, Elvis is kind of a big one. People got hysterical over him. Frankie and Annette. So Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello, all of the beach movies. It was a pretty big deal. And they're running around in their bathing suits. So, of course, people are pretty excited about that.
My
One
father,
of the
Annette Funicello.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was
and then-
she was a big crush for a lot of people of that age, and she stayed quite beautiful as she aged, I
and then
think.
my
So
mom is also an Annette.
So okay, there you go. There, see, you find who you like, and then you find somebody similar to that. Yep. So Ricky Nelson from Ozzie and Harriet show. He was actually one of the first teen idols of that time period because most of them were kind of in their 20s or older. He was the beginning of teen actors really getting pushed as having crushes on them.
I
So.
remember having to find out who he was because I wanted to know who the Nelson's father
Who the
was.
Nelson twins, another set. You have to go forward. So that is like second gen
Yeah,
people
that's
getting
when I was
crushes.
introduced to the
Yeah,
Nelsons,
big time. And
then-
those Nelson boys are quite pretty. Not just the blonde hair. They definitely had their fathers pretty, and their mother was very beautiful as well. So
I
yes.
just didn't know who their dad was. At
Oh
all
God,
until- yeah,
really?
that was
Went to a garden party?
No,
Nothing. Okay.
after. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But no, and of course they had their father's talent for music as well, if you ask me. So.
Oh, they were good. They were
I
good
thought,
guys.
yeah, they were catchy. I didn't, me. I'm not afraid to say when something is catchy, even if people think it's cheesy.
They were, people. I think people complained because they were a little too clean.
Yes, they were very clean cut, as was their father, as was their grandparents. So it would
Yeah.
just that part kind of
It
ran
was
in the
it
family
was
too.
pretty
Yeah, they
clean.
weren't going
Yeah.
to make it as gritty as
Not there
what
was
was
no
happening at
grit.
the time.
Yeah.
No, not
Yeah.
really. But it was perfectly fine. I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
So to finish off the 50s, there were people like Paul Anka, Dion, and Fabian. So not as many people of my age would know as much about them. I knew about Fabian because he was in the TV show Laverne and Shirley, and they had a huge crush on him. And they got actual Fabian to be on their show. And he had aged, obviously, but they kind of, slicked his hair back. And he still looked like a lot of his pictures from the 50s and 60s. So, speaking of the 60s, let's jump right in. The Beatles were a huge one. Absolutely. The British invasion brought a lot of boys, and everybody thought that they were good looking and were screaming over them. Beatlemania being one of the biggest hysterias that had happened at any given time. And of course, Herman's Hermits was another one. And of course, TV decided to get in on it and created the Monkees. And then, oh, poof, the Monkees can actually play and sing music. Let's put them on tour. So, and it just built out of that. Of course, interestingly, the Doors were listed as being very heavy on 60s charm, but they were very dark and brooding, right? There was a
Yeah.
little bit of
Yeah.
danger. And that's the thing is like when
Morrison.
people get their fandoms, a lot of times they start with those bright, scrubbed, fresh characters, and then you have that first kind of dark crush.
Jim Morrison welcomed
Yes,
everybody
and
into
but he
the
was,
door
but it
with
was,
that
but it was.
shirtless.
I know,
You
but
know.
it was very dark and maybe
Yeah.
like a twinge naughty. And
Oh,
so
oh,
for me, the first of that was Sting. Sting
uh,
was kind of the first one. I'm like, wow, I'm really attracted to him, and it's a little scary. So, and
yeah,
Steven
you showed
mentions
me one of
Steve.
him
Yeah,
with a lot of skin in the
right,
middle of a
right.
magazine.
Yeah, it's out there.
It was a double
It was,
pager.
yeah, and it showed most of him. So Stephen mentions Donnie and Marie Osmond. Marie was such a pretty lady, and I couldn't agree more. So and then Kat mentioned, was Sean Connery in the 60s? Yes, he was in the 60s and the 70s and well into the 80s, and he was handsome. He's one of those that aged quite well. Inger also mentions Billy Idol. So before we go on, I've got to mention the Osmonds. You'll notice that this is very old. There's actually a tag from when I bought it at Mattingly's with my with what was it? I don't know if it was my sister's or mine. I think it's mine, but I bought it with my allowance money. And this is just a booklet like filled with pictures of the whole family. And like you can make a poster, you can color it in. Look at there's Donnie when he's so young, and all of their favorite things, like their hobbies. His hobbies were electronics and football. So let me go ahead and
This
skip
is
ahead.
historical
I
stuff
know,
here
but
and preserved so
you
well.
mentioned Marie. There's Marie for you. Look at how young she is. She couldn't have been more than 14 or
Oh
so.
yeah,
And then, of
yeah.
course, I do have to mention my
Totally my type.
sister's favorite. This is kind of his early days. There's Jimmy Osmond right there, guys. There he is. They even made him into a preteen idol because he had not even turned into a preteen. So Linda agrees that Sean was in many decades, and Steven said, I was reading your mind. Yes, you were. So you figured out. And my big
On
crush
the
was
back
on
of that.
Donnie. Yes.
On the back of that, they're hoarders. Look at that.
Oh yeah, look at all their gold medals. They want some careful there.
Sorry,
Easy, sir. So
they're
so yes,
hoarders
they
right
won
there.
lots of gold medals, and
Hoarders.
so they're all listed there. And so, oh, and no, we do need a moment to recognize the insanity of these suits. I hope you can see them all right, and how like ridiculously plaid from head to toe, right? So the Osmonds, everyone. All right, and so that's some of the musician ones. And like I said, we'll go back to movies here in just a second, but I'm trying to like rattle through as many of the music ones as I can. Paul Revere and the Raiders was a really big one. This Rolling Stones, of course, and the Rolling Stones were kind of the danger compared to the Beatles. And then Inger remembers watching the Donnie and Marie show. Yes, we watched the heck out of that as well, and then they'd invite the rest of the family to join in as well. So as we ease ourselves into the 70s, I do have more albums of that. One of the big ones would be Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive. And what a lot of people don't realize about this album is that it opens this direction. So you get an entire Peter Frampton. Look at that. And everybody else is freaking out over Peter Frampton. I'm freaking out of that over that Les Paul. Don't you love the
Yeah.
Les Paul guitar. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the nerd in me that
No,
does
that's the guy
that kind of
means
thing.
business right
So
there.
yes,
That's
and I can't remember, has anybody mentioned Sean Cassidy yet? Because that was one of the big ones that I got the full
it.
album
No,
of. And
God,
yes, here it is,
I
you
have not
guys.
even
Here it
thought of
is.
his
And this
face
one's
in
pretty.
decades.
This one is pretty beat up. Like it's falling apart, but I definitely, it's very well left. Crystal said, I went to school with their kids. She's right. If you went to school in Branson right around the time that Crystal was in school at Branson, bunches of Osmonds were living there because the Osmonds had a show in Branson. And so all their kids went to the public school. So lots of people.
Like
Yeah.
O'Doyle.
Yeah. So
Husband,
yeah.
husband.
So let me tell you a little bit of a side story about
Rules.
crushes that I had. This is one that was revelatory to me. I actually had a crush. Get this, on the construction worker from the Village People. Yeah. So over here.
I
Yep,
think that's
right there.
fabulous.
I know, and I didn't know. I was 8. Like I had a crush on him, and I actually had, and I don't normally name. I don't name names. So, but one of my extended family members was like, "Well, you know, they're gay." I'm like, "Yeah, they're very happy," and they're like, "No, boys date boys." I'm like, "Oh," and I thought about it for a second. I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So, and that was my feeling about the whole thing. And I'm like, well, I can still have a crush on him. I'm not. I'm 8. I'm not
But he would
planning.
still be flattered.
Yeah, I'm 8.
You know?
I'm not planning to date this man in his 20s, y'all.
He'd still be
I'm
flattered.
just.
It's a
I'm not
fan
doing
that's
that.
crushing
Exactly.
It's a fan
Um,
that thinks he looks
but
good.
right, but I
Yeah.
always thought that they looked so cool, right? Like,
Mm,
how
cool is
cool are
good,
they?
yeah.
And they're all like on their different like. I'm trying to work on glare here.
I did
So and
not think
Kat.
you were going to be going through the Village People's record collection.
Sorry. Well, it's me, so that's how that goes.
No.
And Kat, welcome. I'm glad you're here as well. And said that completely tracks. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then of course, I don't want to leave you that are attracted to pretty girls out. So a little bit of Linda Ronstadt. Look at those beautiful brown eyes. Isn't she
Gosh.
beautiful?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally
So-
my type, for sure.
Absolutely. And so at that time, a little country girl by the name of Tanya Tucker, one of my dad's favorites. My dad always thought that she was so pretty. And this was when she was very 70s. And look at how tight, like that outfit, right? It's almost more rock and roll than it is country.
Yeah,
So,
that's more
but
rock
it
and
was
roll.
out for sure. And then of course we get to one of my personal favorites. Here's a fun story. I don't have Working Class Dog, the album, but I do have Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. So look at that handsome guy. Better yet, look at that handsome dog. That's his dog, Ron. I'm almost as big of a fan of Ron, the dog, as I am Rick Springfield. And Rick Springfield doesn't mind. Yeah. So, oh yes,
He's
and so
doing
he's
magic.
he's over here tossing his guitar. So, and what is like, if anybody could make a jumpsuit look sexy, like, and I know people will argue, but like that is just a that
I
is.
think he's David Blaney right now.
I don't know. I think
Some
he's
sort of
just
magic.
tossing the guitar out of the way so he can pay attention to whoever he's
Slow.
staring at. Yeah. So Dave says Karen Carson had a crush on Bo Duke. Yes, we will get to television. Dave had a big crush on Daisy Duke. So yes, we are absolutely going to
Yeah.
cover not just those particular crushes, but the entire TV show. Where like there were like 3 or 4 people you could have a crush on.
Daisy Dukes was like a crush that turned into the name of pants.
That's right. So when she is popular enough that her clothing then becomes iconic, yeah, that's pretty meaningful. So somebody already mentioned Billy Idol. Look at that look. He was Blue Steel before Blue Steel was Blue Steel, right? Right?
Yeah, that
Yes.
guy was cool.
Absolutely love
Like,
it.
way
So-
cooler than anybody
So
thought they
now
could be.
from here we are going to kind of go from the 70s into the 80s. So with that really quickly, I'll rattle off a few more. Bobby Sherman, the Bay City Rollers from Scotland, absolutely love them. Kiss was a big deal, even with their makeup on. When they took the makeup off, oh yeah, I've got that too. We talked about the Osmonds. The Jacksons were extremely popular as well. Michael, the rest of all of the brothers and the sisters, very popular, very big fans. So Kat is laughing and says, that reminds me of Bugsy Malone's when that woman kept yelling Jesse's Girl. Okay. Bender has never played Jesse's Girl. I love the song. I could have sang it to her all by myself, but we hadn't learned it yet. But some lady just screamed Jesse's Girl like for 3 hours. We had a 3 or 4 hour gig, and every other song, Jesse's Girl.
No.
She's so drunk. She was so drunk. I don't remember how it all ended, but dear God. And I don't know if Kat almost got into a fight with her or not, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
Her persistence is amazing.
It was over the top, and I'm like, we don't know that song. I'm with you. I love Rick, but
Did
you
guys
need to
learn
settle
it
down.
yet? Did you learn it
No,
yet?
but I do have a plan.
So that night
But I
she's
will
yelling
will
it out.
say this. These days I've been thinking about me being in front of a Rick Springfield cover band. Should I give away the name? What I'm going to call it? Yeah. Should I say the name or should I say? Okay. So instead of Working Class Dog, I'm going to call it Working Class Doll. Yeah. I hope it goes over. I have to put it together. It's a long way coming, but I
It's
couldn't
gonna be a
use
tribute.
but
too.
I
It's
could-
not
but I
just
c-
gonna be like
but I
a-
couldn't use Jesse's Girl, and the reason why is because there is already an East Coast band cover band that does that. So Inger said that she wanted the Duke's car. Yep, that was a pretty cool car. Could run a lot of stuff. So Dave Grinder said Billy Idol rules. Inger loved Kiss. Prince was mentioned as well. A big crush in the 80s for Kat. And then Kat W says we eventually just told her to shut up because they didn't play it. Yes, and I think you helped us do that. So thank you. I'm so grateful still to this very day. So, you're right.
I was just
So
away from that
now I
moment,
need to
and
make sure
remembered the ball.
that I also mentioned. So Ingrid listed off a few different people. Leif Garrett. I already mentioned Peter Frampton. Now in the magazines that had like all the pretty boys in them, they also had girls that they would show sometimes giving advice. So Susan Day, Maureen McCormick, that's Marcia from the Brady Bunch, Peggy Lipton, who was in a TV show, The Avengers, not the Avengers we know, but a different one, and Karen Carpenter, and they were giving dating advice. So
Oh,
from
okay.
here,
I was like, what kind of advice were they
oh,
giving?
dating advice, beauty advice, fashion, all kinds of stuff.
Did they
Yeah,
also
they
get
could.
pics in the magazine too?
Yes,
Of
yes,
them?
they did.
Okay.
Yeah, and um, so in the 1980s, of course, we had boy bands, but we also had hair bands. There's our Bon Jovi from Runaway. Was that one called Fahrenheit 15? No, this is the self-titled one. Sorry, my bad. So I have quite a few of those. Let's get all of the hairband stuff looked at really quick, and then I'll start rattling off all of our crushes in the 80s. Look at how girly they looked. It's Poison. Look what the cat dragged in. I wish I could do my makeup as well as they do theirs. Look at it.
Yeah,
It's pretty. So
I
pretty.
was waiting for Nirvana
So
at that point.
and those for those of you that loved Kiss, when they unmasked, it was a huge deal. This was the first album that they unmasked. Look at the drama in their pictures and their faces. Oh my god! Of course, he's sticking his tongue out. But my personal favorite, I was always a Paul girl. Not only am I a Paul girl when it comes to the Beatles, I'm a Paul girl when it comes to Kiss. And there they are. So look at the handsome fellas. Very good. So, and Kat read my mind on this one as well. So, and any of the 80s hairband lead singers. Yes, 100%. Speaking of, there's, of course, another one of them running around shirtless on his album cover, little David Lee Roth, Crazy from the Heat. Yeah,
I mean,
so
that's kind of how you always pictured him
oh
walking
yeah, and
around
then
everywhere.
and these weren't the only albums. Like Cinderella, look at all that hair, you guys. So much hair, so much leather, so much going on in all of the pictures. And Kat says that was her first concert was Poison. So right, all those great memories. So I'm gonna rattle off all of our 80s ones. The boy band thing kind of came back with New Kids on the Block. But we also had crushes on new wave guys. I particularly had crushes on new wave guys like Duran Duran and Haircut 100. Rick Springfield was a rocker, but he still kind of had that like razor thin tie and all of those like all these pictures back here. How hot does he look? How cute is he? Oh my god! And he was always wearing those. Sorry, easy. Tom, yes, Tom from Cinderella. So Kat has also called them out. Very good, very good. Now, a fun one was a little band called Menudo. And so once you could age out of Menudo, there were dozens and dozens of 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 Hispanic boys, and they would just once they got too old to be in it, they aged out, and the new set aged in. And one of and my favorite, I know, but that's where Ricky Martin came from, and I had a massive crush on that boy. He was so handsome, so it still is to this very day. If you saw him at the Super Bowl, of course.
Menudo's got some sort of CD documentary coming out, probably.
Really? Okay. All right. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope so.
Boy band farm.
Right.
Yeah.
It absolutely was. And so, but extremely popular. Crystal mentioned Dude Looks Like a Lady. So yes, all those hair bands and all their pretty makeup. Yes. And Kat agrees with me about Ricky. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And of course we also had New Edition, which was another one of the boy bands, which was a very big deal. And they were pretty young as well.
I loved that band.
The Harmony, absolutely. Boys to Men, much later in the 90s. Yeah, Belle Biv DeVoe. So, yes, we're definitely sinking into the 90s a little bit here. But we also had some girl crushes on Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Debbie Gibson, Tiffany. You always had to pick a side. I liked them both just fine. Now, at this point, I went more rock and roll. And so my big crushes were Bono, Sting, and NXS. Do you guys see up here behind me every week? You see there's a picture of NXS. All the boys were pretty, even the guy with glasses. But Michael Hutchence was the same. That same like when I saw Sting and things felt like just a different kind of flutter. Michael Hutchence was the same way. He would stare through your soul, and of course,
if he wasn't being sultry or something, you would think something's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. He had ultimate rock and roll swagger. So Steven said I only knew them from the TV show, and then Crystal also mentioned Ricky. Kat mentioned the Bangles. So absolutely, Susanna Hoffs and those beautiful eyes, right? And then everybody in that whole band was pretty. Vixen, same thing, all of it. So Crystal mentions Ricky Martin. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, Ricky Martin definitely came into his own as a solo artist. Super hot, not gonna lie. And then he did some acting.
Super Bowl, he looked fantastic.
Right? Again,
like
teen idols,
but naturally.
Teen idols aging well. Quite a few of them do it, and I feel the same way about Rick Springfield. I think he's aged well. He's 76 at this point. Holy crap! So Huey Lewis, big fan of Huey Lewis. I don't even know John Bon Jovi. People still have crushes on him to this very day. And Crystal mentioned "Dude Looks Like a Lady." Aerosmith, who didn't have, I mean, Steven Tyler, and a lot of people were picking between Steven Tyler or Joe Perry. And I don't feel like I needed to pick between both. I thought they were both handsome. So, and that was the thing, is they had an unusual look, but it was intriguing. And of course, they could sing their
sloping off him
right. He's just so chill. He's like ultimate chill. And of course, there were people like Poison, Motley Crue, GNR, Winger, your favorite, Kip Winger. Is Kip Winger still your hero? Is he? Please say yes.
The fact that he survived writing that song 17.
Yeah.
Still is
And
amazing.
again, we talk about the boundaries and the problems on age. Yeah, he wrote a song called 17.
We saw him playing acoustic.
That's true.
Again,
That's true.
Yeah.
And so, and then
and
of
Kip
course,
Winger, it was
but
his
like
teeth,
I
his
said,
pose, do we have a picture?
we have a picture. We don't have a Kip Winger, unfortunately.
Oh,
But when we talk about Smolder, we need to talk about Sting's ability to smolder in a picture. See what I'm talking about? So that was what I was talking about.
Kip
So that
Winger helped me make it through the hair metal show.
Aw.
That way.
Oh, good,
The
good.
spirit of
Hair
Kip.
metal, I enjoy hair metal. Now, I of course had a lot of different fan magazines, and so when I was a kid, I took this really messed up bucket, and then I just covered it to try to improve it.
Yes.
And now it is so broken. Like there's Magnum PI is on there. We're going to talk about him in a minute. A bunch of guys from Anthony Geary from General Hospital. I love, of course, plenty of Rick Springfield to be seen there. So many people. And even B.A. Baracus from A-Team. Yeah. And Kermit somehow made it on there too. And of course, we have John Stamos in his earliest years. This is the guy from Haircut 100. Because like I said, I had crushes on New Wave boys. Glenn Scarpelli. So yeah, I don't know. Oh no, I do know who this is. This guy was the sidekick in Magnum PI. And if anybody wants to remember what his name is,
You had a crush on
go
the
for it.
sidekick from Magnum.
He was
I
pretty
love it.
enough to be. He was pretty enough to make the list.
Well,
And
so
then
was Kermit.
yeah, well, yeah. So and then of course I've got the police. Oh man, I've got poor Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams. He's getting a little bit curled up here, but yes, I thought he was pretty great too. So yeah. So Christopher Reeve, absolutely beautiful. Scott Baio. Yeah, there's a whole
This is
list
all
of stuff.
dudes, too,
I know,
right?
and they're old
Yeah.
and they're getting kind of torn up,
But it's all
unfortunately.
dudes, so this
I
is a
believe
crush
so.
bucket
I
for
think
sure.
that this definitely tells you where my taste level was all over, but yeah, it was quite a bit.
That's a crush bucket.
And Kat says Kip was so pretty. Steven thinks heart. Yes, absolutely gorgeous. I love those. Ann Wilson, definitely a girl crush. Like I would like to be as much like her as possible.
Both.
Oh,
Both of them-
right.
both of them were
Amazing.
beautiful to me. Yeah.
Amazing. And so Kat
Hard.
says Kip was so pretty. He has aged pretty well as well. And Inger said General Hospital was definitely a focus in the mid 80s. Lots of people from General Hospital getting the attention. So we've got to jump ahead to the 90s because I still have like a page of stuff to do. So we're going to rattle. We're going to go like Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire on this. Okay. Are we ready? Here we go. In the 90s, we had NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Destiny's Child, Britney and Christina. We had Dave Grohl, of course, which I had posters up of as well. Chris Cornell. No one sings like you anymore. Hanson was a big one. Ricky Martin, we've already talked about. Will Smith, LL Cool J, and Usher. From here, we want to go into our later movie and TV and soaps. Robert Redford, Paul Newman, Sean Connery, we've already talked about. Steve McQueen, Audrey Hepburn, Julie Andrews, Amanda Blake. That's Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke. How pretty was she? Charlie's Angels, all of them, right? Clint Eastwood, Warren Beatty, James Garner, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Bo Derek, the Dukes of Hazzard. Now there were entire TV shows that had multiples, like Dukes of Hazzard had Bo, Luke, Daisy. We also had Happy Days, which had the Fonz as well as Chachi. We also,
Chachi.
right? Remember Scott Baio, right? Of
Yeah.
course. Burt Reynolds, Richard Gere, John Travolta was in everything. Ryan O'Neal, Brooke Shields, Angie Dickinson. That's Policewoman from the 70s into the 80s. Tom Selleck, of course, Magnum PI, mentioned before. Randolph Mantooth from Emergency. The boys from Emergency, they were always thought I was very handsome. They're like, come save me. So Kat Tate said, John Stamos, I saved all my class dollars in 5th grade to buy his autographed photo in my 5th grade class auction. Genius. Do you still have it? That is my next question. So anyway, moving on. Farrah Fawcett, Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, right? And the Brat Pack. Okay, I'm going to try to rattle this Brat Pack off as quick as I can. Now, some of them are Brat Pack and some of them are Brat Pack adjacent. I would like to thank, who was it? Andrew McCarthy did a documentary on it. Who was considered a Rat Packer? So here we go. Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Ali Sheedy, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, Anthony Michael Hall, Andrew McCarthy, who did the documentary, like I said, Matt Dillon, Charlie Sheen. This is getting a little off track here, but Kiefer Sutherland, James Spader, Matthew Broderick, Patrick Swayze, and Jennifer Grey, Tom Cruise, Anthony Edwards. So this kind of spawned out into a lot of movies, and a lot of them were in a lot of movies together. Steven said, not my crush, obviously, but David Hasselhoff was a chick magnet. I did not like him, but boy, oh boy, there are plenty of ladies that loved him.
Oh, God,
Now,
no.
there were brother-sister combos, weirdly.
Knight
Jason...
Rider, he was cool.
I didn't was my thing. So Jason Bateman and Justine Bateman. So Justine Bateman was the older sister on Family Ties.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
they were crush
and of course he's they both remained very good looking since then. Jimmy and Christy McNichol. Christy McNichol was on Empty Nest. Yeah, Empty Nest, I think was the name of it. And so she, as a teenager, though, was very popular in a show called Family. Then, of course, we skip back ahead to all of our movie stars. Val Kilmer, Michael J. Fox, TV into movies. Greg Evigan was mentioned. Thank you, Inger. I appreciate that. Crystal liked Kit, the car, of course, from Knight Rider. And then Eric Estrada, Billy D. Williams, Anthony Geary, John Stamos, who we've already talked about, Johnny Depp, River Phoenix, R.I.P., Denzel Washington. John Cusack was one of my favorite. John Cusack and Say Anything. Heavens to Betsy. Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid, and Christian Slater. And then the Coreys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. And of course, many things have happened to them. They're a bit of a story. Sadly, we've lost Corey Haim. The Baldwins. If you were a member of the Baldwin, if you were one of the Baldwin boys, right? That was a big deal. I didn't really like them.
So many stories.
Everybody in Buffy, like there's at least 5, 6 odd people in Buffy, all of them good looking, and so everyone had a crush. 90210, Melrose Place, Dawson's Creek, same. Like everybody was good looking. Linda says, I go for the dark look too. So that is definitely along the lines of Magnum P.I., Hasselhoff, and those kind of things. Inger mentioned River Phoenix as well. And then, of course, we had everybody in Saved by the Bell, everybody in Party of Five. We've already talked about Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Robert Downey Jr., Freddie Prinze Jr., a couple of the juniors, right? Liv Tyler, Alicia Silverstone, all those Aerosmith videos.
Yeah.
Yes, amazing. Drew Barrymore, of course, once she grew up, everybody's like, wow. Joey Lawrence, Jared Leto, what a brooding fellow from Life is My So-Called Life. That's one. Leonardo DiCaprio, which I've also talked about. Thank you to Crystal for listing all of like the dozen or so of the ones that she did with pictures. Go enjoy those.
Awesome.
George Clooney was a big deal. I didn't, but I loved Keanu Reeves, and we already mentioned that. James Marsden. Marsden, I think, is Marsden.
The Sonic guy?
Ingram. No, he's Angel. No.
No, James.
Someone's gonna help me with the person's name. We had a whole group of friends. He was a guy from Buffy, the blonde-haired one.
Okay.
That was the bad guy. That was a bad guy.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I know. Sorry, Crystal. Thank you. So even did Buffy Awards versus Emmy. So I don't know who you're thinking of, but we'll look him up when I have a chance. So
This is what the show's about. Yeah.
it is. It's about crushes, and look, we're taking it back to the soda from last week, and I am 100% running out of time. Sorry, everybody, but I do want to try to get through them all. So Alyssa Milano, we mentioned Kim Basinger, and then Supermodels was a huge deal. So I'm going to rattle them. You ready? Jean Shrimpton, Beverly Johnson, Cheryl Tiegs, Gia, Christy Brinkley, Iman. Cindy Crawford, Elle McPherson, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington, Naomi Campbell, Kate Moss, Claudia Schiffer, Tyra Banks, and Steven's favorite, Mila Jovovich. And she was multimedia. She could sing, she could act, she was model. Pretty amazing. David Boreanaz, Angel. So that was one of Crystal's favorite. He was definitely... Oh, Spike. Thank you, Inger. The guy that played Spike on Buffy with the blonde hair.
Okay.
Thank you. I needed that.
guy's cool.
And then
He's really
David Boreanaz was the one playing Angel, and then he had the
Yeah.
spinoff. Yeah, there it is. And then Crystal's got it too. James Marster, Spike. Thank you, Buffy fans, for getting me back on my brain track. Now, of course, I didn't even get into the WE. Million WWE crushes. The Rock is fantastically beautiful. You know, my favorite is Seth Rollins because he is a very hot husband. Luckily, I have a hot husband too. So what I want to think about coming into next week, and as we keep talking about this, how did you show your fandom? Was it fan letters? For me, it was posters. As you can see, all these million posters on the wall, watching their shows and their movies. And we did that a lot. And we, of course, bought their albums. And so going to
They
their
wouldn't let
concerts,
me
meet
show
and
my
greets.
fandom. I'm just kidding.
because then you get in trouble. See? And then James Marston, thank you. So James Marsters was Spike. Crystal can read my mind too. James Marsters was Spike. James Marsden was Cyclops and X Men. See? She brings me back around, so I know exactly what I'm doing. Now, and what we've mentioned this whole time, is how it influenced your choice in real life. So after all this, I made it through the paper, guys. It's amazing. So, Kat loved C. Thomas Howell and all the guys from Red Dawn. We talked about Red Dawn too. How many people in this list were in Red Dawn? Now, I am going to take it down just a notch and tell you the entire thing. This is what I listed on my list as my personal aside. Now, you might think I'm full of crap, whatever. I pride myself very much in being a very honest person. So I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it out loud. We have had so much fun talking about all these crush boys and crush girls. Crystal says Patrick Swayze. Yes, also in Red Dawn. So what I have to tell you about all of my celebrity crushes, they all paled in comparison when I got my crush on Steven. Yeah, I know. I'm being sappy, but I don't give a crap. He is my favorite crush. When somebody like that can ruin my crushes on all of these hot, handsome men, it's a big freaking deal. Yeah. So my biggest crush, the one that just kind of pales all the rest of them out in comparison, is Steven. And if you've ever seen me around him, yeah, you guys look at me and you want to throw up because I'm just a complete dork for him, because that's just how it is. And that's the thing, is when we talk about that, his eyes are the same color as Paul McCartney's. He is the same height and same sense of humor as Rick Springfield. He's got the beard and the hair of Seth Rollins. He vaguely has some bone structure of Dave Grohl. Like, it all comes together. And Steven agrees. Hey, we all love Steven. Inger says, ah. And this is just how it is. He is that perfect combination. Like, if there came a day when Rick Springfield and Steven were standing in front of me and I could just choose, I still choose Steven. Sorry, Rick Springfield. Sorry. You're really handsome. You're really hot. But Steven's hotter. That's just how it is for me. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, we only have 4 minutes before it's top of the hour, and I have taken way too long. So with that in mind, I do need to let you know what our next week's topic is. Kat, giving all the love you right back. And so in honor of us talking about all these celebrity crushes, with it being after Valentine's Day, and since we had such a great suggestion, I don't remember if it might have been from Dave Grunder, I'm not for sure, but feel free to yell out if it was you or if it was Ernie, I'm not sure which one. But we are doing breakup songs. Yeah, let's have some fun. Breakup songs and breakup movies, right? So things like Better Off Dead, what was it? Oh my gosh, it's not Chasing Sarah Marshall. I forget. You'll all help me. I know you're all yes, thank you. Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Thank you for coming in clutch. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about the movies, but we're also going to talk about the breakup songs. So, of course, Alanis Morissette will be a big part of this, right? Yeah, absolutely. Everything About You by Ugly Kid Joe. We're going to have some fun with the breakup songs. I'm going to make set lists, song lists, all kinds of things, and we're going to have some fun with that. And Inger said it is the real connection versus the parasocial. Absolutely. And Linda says he's top of my list too. So, so cute. And yes, Inger said Moonstruck. Great idea. Adele. Oh my gosh. Yes, 100%. Rolling in the Deep, and that's only one of her breakup songs. There are many others. Someone Like You, Never Mind, I'll Find Someone. Yes, so many songs. So we are going to be inundated with all of these songs. Guys, thank you so much. You stuck with me for an entire 57 minutes this time. I will try to continue to make the improvements. Like I said, we're going to get more wires and cords and all the things so that I have a little less lag. Still working on it. I have not given up yet. So don't give up on us either. So, and thank you guys for sharing all of your crushes, all of your love, everything. I so appreciate you guys. And we will see you next week, 7 p.m. And we will talk about breakup songs. So
Bye.
Thanks again to Evan for being my peanut gallery. Thank you to all of you who commented and all of you who watched. Have a good one, guys, and we will see you next time. Hold this up until it goes away.
Super fun again. That was good. You got through the whole list this time.
It was crazy, but